A storm is coming. You can feel it. The air pressure drops. The wind shifts. The sky turns green. And somewhere above you, every single bird already knew. Hours before the first raindrop fell. Hours before the first warning siren sounded. Hours before any human meteorologist said a single word. The birds knew, and they were already moving, already preparing, already surviving. Because for birds, a storm is not a surprise, it is a test, and every species on Earth has developed its own answer to that test. Some hide, some fly higher, some disappear entirely, and some do something so unexpected, so strange, so completely against everything we would expect, that scientists are still trying to fully explain it. Today we are going inside the hidden world of birds during storms, what they feel, what they know, what they do, because the truth about how birds survive storms is far stranger than anyone imagined. And by the end of this video, you will never hear thunder the same way again. Have you ever noticed something strange before a storm? The birds go quiet, not slowly, not gradually, all at once. One moment the air is full of birdsong, the next, silence. That silence is not random. It is a signal. Birds can detect infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that travel ahead of storms, sometimes hundreds of miles before the storm itself arrives. Human ears cannot hear infrasound. Our technology can barely measure it, but birds feel it, in their bodies, in their bones. Scientists discovered this accidentally while studying golden-winged warblers in Tennessee in 2014. The birds had just arrived after a long migration. They were exhausted. They had just settled. And then, without any visible warning, they left. All of them. Flew hundreds of miles out of the path of an approaching storm system. A storm that hadn't even formed yet when they left. The storm had been generating low-frequency sound waves far out in the atmosphere. Waves that no human instrument in the area had detected. But the warblers heard them, felt them, and acted on them immediately. While we are checking weather apps on our phones, a tiny bird weighing less than half an ounce is already packing up and leaving, days ahead of us. Not every bird runs from a storm. Some stay, and the way they prepare is remarkable. Take the common swift. This bird spends almost its entire life in the air. It eats in the air. It sleeps in the air. It drinks rainwater while flying. For the common swift, landing is almost unnatural. But when a serious storm approaches, it lands. And it tucks itself into the smallest possible space. A crack in a wall, a gap under roof tiles, a hollow in a tree. Its body temperature drops. Its heart rate slows. It enters a state called torpor, a kind of controlled shutdown that conserves energy when survival demands it. The storm rages outside. The swift feels nothing. It has simply switched off. And when the storm passes, it switches back on and returns to the sky, as if nothing happened. Now consider the house sparrow, a bird so common we barely notice it. But before a storm, the house sparrow becomes an extraordinary engineer. It gathers extra nesting material. It reinforces the walls of its nest. It plugs gaps. It waterproofs edges. It does everything a skilled builder would do before a flood, with nothing but its beak, and the knowledge passed down through thousands of generations. But here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary, because while most creatures hide from storms, some birds fly directly into them, not by accident, not in panic, by choice. The albatross is perhaps the greatest example. With a wingspan of up to 11 feet, the albatross is the largest flying bird on Earth, and it has a relationship with storms that seems almost impossible. The albatross needs wind to fly, not a gentle breeze, real wind, powerful wind, the kind of wind that comes with storms. Without strong wind, the albatross cannot sustain flight efficiently. Its wings are too long, too specialized, designed for one thing only, riding the most powerful air currents on the planet. So when a storm builds over the Southern Ocean, While every other creature seeks shelter, the albatross turns toward it and flies in. Scientists have tracked albatrosses flying continuously through storm systems for days, covering thousands of miles, using almost no energy. Because the storm itself is doing the work, the albatross simply has to know how to use it. And it does, every single time. This is not bravery, this is not recklessness, this is mastery. A creature so perfectly designed for its environment that what destroys others simply carries it forward. Sometimes before a major storm, birds simply vanish. Not just one species, not just from one area, entire populations of multiple species gone. Birdwatchers, who have spent years studying local populations, report the same thing. Days before a major hurricane or severe storm system, the birds disappear, the feeders empty, the trees fall silent, the sky clears of wings, and then the storm hits. And when it passes, they return. Where did they go? Some believe birds use the Earth's magnetic field to navigate around storm systems, moving to areas of higher pressure where conditions remain calm. Others believe they follow the infrasound signals we discussed earlier, using them like a map of the atmosphere, seeing the storm not as a wall of chaos, but as a pattern, a shape in the sky with edges they can read and navigate around. But perhaps the most fascinating theory is that birds share information, that when one bird detects the approach of a dangerous system, that information spreads through the flock, through calls, through behavior, through a kind of collective awareness that we are only beginning to understand. Imagine that, a network of living creatures sharing real-time weather data with no technology at all, just instinct, just connection, just the extraordinary intelligence of creatures we have underestimated for far too long. But not every bird survives, and this part of the story deserves to be told honestly. Major storm systems kill birds, sometimes in enormous numbers. Migrating birds are particularly vulnerable. They are already exhausted from long journeys, their energy reserves are low, their bodies are pushed to the limit, and when a storm system moves across a migration route, the results can be devastating. Researchers studying migration patterns have documented events where thousands of birds are grounded by sudden storms, unable to fly, unable to feed, burning through the last of their energy reserves, simply trying to stay warm and survive. And yet, migration continues. Every year, every season, billions of birds making journeys of thousands of miles, knowing that storms will come, knowing the risks, and going anyway, because the alternative is to never arrive at all. There is something in that fact that feels almost impossible to look at directly, the sheer scale of what birds endure simply to continue existing is one of the most humbling things in the natural world. In 2017, Hurricane Irma swept across the Caribbean and into Florida, one of the most powerful Atlantic hurricanes ever recorded. And in its aftermath, scientists noticed something remarkable. Bird populations in areas directly hit by the storm were different, not just reduced in number, different in character. Studies conducted in the months following the hurricane found that surviving bird populations showed measurable changes. Behaviors had shifted, territories had changed, some species had moved into areas they had never previously occupied, and in some populations, the birds that survived showed physical characteristics that were slightly different from pre-storm populations. Slightly larger, slightly stronger, as if the storm itself had acted as a filter, selecting for the most resilient individuals. That storms are not simply destructive forces, they are also, in some brutal and ancient way, forces of selection, shaping the species that survive them, making them stronger, generation by generation, storm by storm. The storm has passed. The sky clears. And one by one, the birds return to the same trees, the same territories, the same songs, as if the storm was simply something to be endured, survived, and moved past. For billions of years, storms have come, and birds have answered them, with infrasound detection that shames our technology, with survival strategies refined over millions of generations, with the simple extraordinary refusal to be stopped. We build storm shelter, we check weather apps, we board up our windows and wait, and the birds feel the storm coming in their bones days before we know it exists. Perhaps that is the most humbling truth of all. In a world full of storms, the birds were always better prepared than us. They just never felt the need to tell us. If this story moved you, subscribe to Birdhearts for more incredible bird survival stories that will change the way you see the natural world. And tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed birds behaving strangely before a storm? I'll see you in the next one.